Hello, and welcome back. We're talking about Vampire the Masquerade today, and last week we spoke about a system to create vampires without using stat blocks. But what about the times when you want to use a stat block? For your princes or primogens, or the important kindred who are going to accompany or stand in the way of your coterie. So you sit down with your core rulebook, and you open it up to the chapter where they talk about creating SPC vampires. But you may be surprised to realize that there is none. There is a chapter that has examples of antagonists, but it doesn't really go into how to create your own. I think this is intentional. I don't think it's an oversight. I think they wanted to reflect that in the world of Vampire the Masquerade, that vampires come in various shapes and strengths and sizes and power levels, and that it's not always exactly tied to generation. Maybe you could end up with a 1,000-year-old vampire who got there by the sheer strength of their wit, who's not very strong at all. But maybe their wit isn't actually very high, and they're lucky or had great resources available to them to make that happen. You could always sit down and fall back on stereotypes. You could make a gangrel biker or a Bruja revolutionary, a Ventru venture capitalist, or a Toreador artist. Those things work fine sometimes. Stereotypes rarely, though, reflect the real world. What about vampires in the lore like Beckett, the famous Nodus historian archaeologist gangrel? That's not a normal gangrel. That's not the stereotype for what a gangrel is. So today we're going to look at a tool that I created, a generator, to help us get outside of our comfort zones, to not fall back on stereotypes, and to make interesting vampires who reflect more of real life. As funny as that sounds, because of course vampires are not real life, but people are. So let's have a look at this generator. I'm Zombie, and you're watching 3 Dots and Resources. So here we are. This is my Vampire the Masquerade V5 collection. I created this when I started playing Vampire the Masquerade solo. I was frustrated that there weren't many resources for fleshing out vampires. I wanted to find a generator that could help me make interesting vampires easier. Now, the first thing that I found was the Springhole Random Vampire Generator. This is a great generator, but it's not specifically Vampire the Masquerade. Let's click one and see what they came up with. This ambitious vampire is a woman who turned 127 years ago, currently works as a fry cook. She has hazel eyes, medium brown complexion, and graying dusty blonde hair in a short ponytail. She's very short and averagely sized. She throws on whatever clothes are around. She tends to be forgetful and likes venison blood. That's really cool. You could use that for Vampire the Masquerade, but it doesn't tell you much about stats or what clan she is. Now, you could always just click this and say, wow, that sounds like a gangrel. I'm just going to toss that into my game, and I think you should. Use this generator. It's a great generator. But back to mine. I did use the Springhole generator as a large source of inspiration for how to format the outputs. We're going to focus on the vampire generator here. There's other things here, like humors and dyscrasia, a plot hook generator, which is pretty weak right now. Let's just click one. A magician giant needs to execute the oppressed. The action centers around crumbling animal shelter. That makes just wacky plot hooks. We're not focusing on that, though, today. Today, we're looking at specifically the vampire generator. Let's stop for a moment. And let's talk about the site that this generator is hosted on, Chartopia. It allows you to create generators and tables virtually that you can roll on both your computers, your tablets, anywhere that you have internet connection. The people who run this site are fantastic and extremely helpful. It doesn't have a huge amount of traction yet, but I think going forward, a lot more people are going to become attracted to this website. It's great for everything from Xanathar's backstory generator to world events to cave chamber generation in the public version. Let's see what the heck this rolls up. This isn't mine. Chamber size 3 entrance location on the north. People are making content for all kinds of different games, or just in general. I loot the kobold. The treasure is a bearded dragon, a pet lizard that likes to bite toes. There's all kinds of great stuff like this. But let's have a look at my vampire generator. So to use it, we press roll. And you'll see that nothing really comes up here. It has some strange instructions. It has a few blanks. No random, no random. You can press roll again and save. Save if you want to save the result and review it later. But let's see what it says. Nothing is here. Select yes on generate stats for creating a stat block of a character, and select yes on generate info to create flavor text and personality type information. Both can be used at the same time. Then press reroll. So the reason this is like this is I didn't want it to generate a vampire automatically when you just press the button, because maybe you want a particular clan. Now you can't see the drop down box, but all the clans are listed here. Banu Hakim, Bruja, Gangrel, La Sombra. On this one, you can select from the 8th to 16th generation. Yes, I did say 16th generation. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So to make this work, you need to say that yes, I want to generate info, and we'll say yes, I want to generate stats, because we want everything. We press roll again. Boom. Here we go. We got Lizabeth Vega. She's a 10th generation ministry vampire. We have stats here. We have attributes. We know how much health and willpower she has. We have her skills. We have her disciplines. She has presence, protean, and obfuscate. Pretty standard affair for a ministry vampire. And then we have a little description here. Let's read it. This determined ministry kindred is a middle-aged woman. They died 16 years ago. They have gelled black hair and dark amber eyes. They have a skin texture of toffee hues, and their clothing preference is communist chic. Their motivation is to encourage composure and to encourage the oppressed. Now, we have a lot of information there. We have some things about what they look like, their motivations. We have skin textures and hues. We have eye colors, a name. Now, none of these things are tied to ethnic groups. It doesn't say, okay, Lizabeth Vega, they should have only these kinds of hairs and only these kinds of eyes. I don't believe in that. Those things aren't tied together. So you may end up with someone who has names that you don't feel line up or don't line up with the description that they have, or maybe they're Banu Hakim and you feel that their name doesn't match what you expect. Simply change those things if that makes you more comfortable. If that makes the character better, everything on this generator you should change as you need to. So like, let's say that you're going down here and you're like, wow, I wanted my ministry character to have 3 strength. Give her 3 strength. Or I feel like she's really weak in the stat department. She's got a really high performance skill. Maybe she's a singer, but I feel like she needed more leadership. I'm going to swap her performance and her leadership skill. Do it. Or I'm going to just bump her leadership up to 4. Do it. Do all of those things. Or I don't feel like she has presence. I feel like she should have another point in Proteance. Do it. Tweak these characters to fit the story that you are trying to tell. So let's roll again. Looks like we have a Toreador this time. Imelda Avery. Looks like it's a Toreador 10th generation. She's got a lot of points in politics, science, a lot of points in auspex, celerity, presence. Great. You're playing your game and you want to have a Malkavian primogen. Click Malkavian. Now you have Malkavian selected here, and you can go into your generation, pick that you want your primogen to be a 10th generation. And here we go. We have Seymour Rivers. Now, Malkavians and Nosferatu have extra things because their clans have very obvious clan curses. So we have Seymour Rivers. This ambitious Malkavian kindred is a middle-aged man. They died 290 years ago. Now, a thing to note is that vampires that generate with a higher generation can generate older, all the way up to being created yesterday. This is to say that A 9th generation could have made him 290 years ago, or they could have made him 290 days ago. Lower gen vampires could only exist more in the modern nights. Here's our Malkavian information. They strongly exhibit megalomania. He actually has a lot of disciplines. Now you might say that's too many. Why does he have blood sorcery? All vampires in this generator have a chance, 25% chance actually, per roll for their disciplines to get something that's out of clan. It's just the vision that I had for this. Realistic vampires in your setting aren't always going to stay within their box. Maybe he diablerized Tremere at some point in his life. So let's look at another Malkavian. This one has a subtle tendency toward being schizoid and exhibit paranoia. The mental illness that's associated with Malkavians, I decided to approach very clinical. Let's have a look at another one. They have a subtle tendency toward being dependent and strongly exhibit regression. Perhaps this Malkavian acts like a child. When they are stressed out, they start throwing tantrums or have a parenthood fixation. I really wanted Malkavians to be characters first and their clan curse second. I personally feel like that's the most honest and respectful way to approach Malkavians, because people who have mental health diagnosis are a person first. Their mental health is an aspect. I feel like vampires and Vampire the Masquerade should be the same way. So that's Malkavians. But what about Nosferatu? They are also a particular clan curse. This selfish Nosferatu kindred is an older man. They were embraced 54 years ago. They are particularly putrefied and have burns all over their body and sickly, gaunt features. It's pretty horrifying. Most people think Nosferatu and they think pointy ears, big teeth. I wanted to really push it out. I looked at a bunch of different places online where people had talked about inspirations for Nosferatu appearances. I added in ones of my own. Let's have a roll, see what another one we get. They are particularly engorged and have long fingers and multiple rows of teeth. They have fuzzy blonde hair and dark amber eyes and skin texture of ghostly hues. Really monstrous looking Nosferatu. Let's go back to our generator and we'll click yes. Yes. And we're going to go to the generation and we're going to click 14th generation and we're going to roll them. So you'll see now the clan, no matter what it should have been, with the generator has been changed to Thin Blood. It'll do that for 14th, 15th, and 16th. They still have stats and they can still be really good at things like 4 in wits, 4 in medicine. Maybe this guy's a doctor, a Thin Blood doctor. And also for Thin Bloods generates merits. Now I may change this in the future and make it where it's much rarer for them to have merits, because this guy has 3 merits. Actually, he's got Baby Teeth, Bestial Temper, and Day Drinker. Maybe I'll change it where they definitely have 1, but maybe might have a second one. And it won't always be clear if it's a flaw. It may be a flaw or a merit. Let's look at some examples of how to use this in your actual games. Let's go to Generate Info, Generate Stats, Random Generation, Random Clan. Now we have Ernie David. This spiritual Nosferatu kindred is a young man. They were turned 240 years ago. They are particularly charred, have long pointy ears and long thin fingers. They have swarthy black hair and dark amber eyes. They have skin tones of creamy hues. Their style preference is formal office wear. Their cause is to administer expertise and to join harmony. So looking at this guy, we have a 10th generation Nosferatu. Let's look at what he's good at. He's got a really high composure. Nice survival skill. He's good at science, academics. He has animalism, potence, blood sorcery, presence. These things are all adding up to a particular vision I see for this character. Ernie David is obviously some kind of academic or scientist. He wants to administer expertise and join harmony. So perhaps Ernie was some type of researcher that now wants to continue to use his expertise to create harmony in the world, perhaps? Now, if that join harmony doesn't fit the vision that you're building for this character, don't worry about it. Just forget about it. Or think about it in a different way. Out here, it even has blood sorcery. So, perhaps he's actually been researching blood sorcery in his secret science lab in the sewers below the city. A way that he might interact in the game is that maybe this is the 10th generation. Maybe he's a high-ranking Nosferatu. Perhaps he has information that he could pass to the players, or maybe the players might seek out Ernie David for his expertise and whatever they're finding in their game. A clue, perhaps DNA evidence, and Ernie David is one of the few vampires that has a DNA lab that can be accessed by kindred off the grid and away from the prying eyes of the Camarilla. Or maybe he's been doing research into blood sorcery and vampirism altogether. If any of you have ever read the very old Alien Blood written chronicle, there was a kindred who is the whole reason that the game starts, who is a researcher who's trying to cure vampirism. And that's how the players are embraced, is he's been taking blood from different vampires and creating vampires in a controlled setting and then trying to cure them. And that's how the players enter the world of darkness. Maybe Ernie David in your game, if you're taking inspiration from Alien Blood, is a researcher, and your players awaken at the first session of their game as 13th generation vampires in the lab of Ernie David. And if we're following along with the Alien Blood storyline, he's found the cure to vampirism, and other vampires have come on a blood hunt to destroy his lab and his research, and of course destroy the players as well, and they could end up on a run. This could be a really cool way to start your game, and just looking at this generator, you can start to see a picture, and all you have to do is make the decisions about how this character is in your game. Always feel free to change anything here. This generator is for you. If you don't like something you see, change it. I can't stress that enough. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that you will choose to use the vampire generator. You can find it in the Springhold generator down in the descriptions below. If we look up here in the credits, I actually stream on Twitch. You can find that link down in the description. Me and my wife have a lot of fun. We stream video games at least 3 times a week for about 2 hours a night, about 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here's a clip of, some of the fun we have. It's time to go. See, you were like, why do you pull levers? Because sometimes levers are bad! We get a little bit crazy over there. I hope that one day you choose to join us and have some fun with us on our Twitch channel. But if not, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Ring the bell. I know you're probably tired of hearing that, but as I said in the last video, those things help me understand the kind of content that you want to see. You might point me in the direction of a tool that I've never heard of before, and I would like to cover. And of course, it helps me make content if I know that it's helping you be a better storyteller or inspire you to create more interesting, diverse, and non-stereotypical vampires in your game. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.